deep dive interviews with music gear inventors, builders, creators, and tone chasers. The Gear Gap podcast with Eric Dahl uncovers the behind the scenes stories of the music gear that inspires us. And now, here's your host, Eric Dahl.
So happy to welcome to the Gear Gab show. Many of you already know him. You've seen him, all over the internet. Of course, all over the NAMM show. He does such a tremendous job representing all of us, the media involved with music, and certainly all of the music gear vendors and people. I've got John Mlynczak, from the president and CEO of the NAMM show, John. And I got to thank you so much for joining and just talking about everything that's going on great with the NAMM show right now.
Oh, Eric, it's such a pleasure to be here. I mean, gabbing about gear is our favorite thing to do over here. So this is a perfect conversation to have.
Well, and I told you, John, I was doing all the prep to have you on Gear Gab, and I did not realize, and certainly, and I told you this before we started the show, how impressed I've been since you became the president and CEO of NAMM, National Association of Music Merchants. How much you've elevated the show in the past 3 years, but also you have an extensive background in music education, also working with Hal Leonard, where you and I first met, and you're a brass player.
Guilty as charged. Don't hold it against me.
These are secrets that you've been hiding from me the whole time. It's like going, I just liked you for what you were accomplishing, and from when we met, years ago, I didn't realize what pedigree and background you had with the masters and all of this, and
Yeah, it's been fun. You don't realize you go through life and you perform music, you teach music, you try to stay on the cutting edge of technology and you learn about the industry. I didn't realize that all these things would actually converge and be used all at once, which is actually pretty cool to use like everything you've done in your background and still have a million things to learn every day. It's a pretty wild ride.
Well, and that's one of the things I think that's impressed me most, John, about you. Also, just trying to elevate everyone, bringing all of us together. Certainly at the NAMM shows, but also, I think what gets forgotten is the amount of legislation that NAMM works on and the amount of education, which is also very important as well. From NAMM Next to all the other initiatives and everything, there's multiple prongs of NAMM. Like a lot of us, myself included, think of NAMM, John, to where it's like, okay, it's the event we attend. It's like, it's like one of my favorite times of the year and I told you, I book a meeting every hour. I come in for the media day and I'm scheduled with all of these different music gear vendors and people and all that. But there's much more to this with NAMM, right?
It's a good place to start. Yes, people hear NAMM and they think the NAMM show. We're actually very careful internally to talk about NAMM, the association. The NAMM show is the event. And I'll tell you what's interesting is that the busiest time of the year for a lot of us is actually now, is the other 50 weeks of the year. The NAMM show, we're obviously extremely busy that week. The week or two before the NAMM show, there's almost this like eerie calm that comes over the office because everyone knows what to execute on. We know what's coming in the week ahead and we can just get ready and focus on one thing. The rest of the year, it's like planning the 27 show and the 28 show right now, vendor contracts, all the different things that go into it. We're working on all the various partners we use. We have an event in Europe. We have an advocacy fly-in. We're doing policy. We have NAMM Foundation grants, best communities. It's amazing how much goes on in this building, like every single day. It's always something, but it's our job. We don't exist just to put on a trade show. We do the trade show because it's part of our mission. I mean, our mission is to strengthen the music products industry, and gathering everyone once a year as a global industry is essential to strengthen an industry, but also be in that, forefront of policy, be in the forefront of growing the market and what we do through the foundation and all the other work we do for members. It's a lot, but everyone in this building just loves every minute of it.
Well, and once again with you, John, it seems like everything in your career has kind of led you to this moment, to this past 3 years of heading this up. And what I appreciate as being a media person and coming to the NAMM show and staying up with NAMM all the time. I get the emails, I go to the website, I use the app. um, but it's the enthusiasm. And also, like you said, that I think a lot of people forget about the global, it's not just the United States. I mean, when we come to a NAMM show and certainly everything else and the other shows, um, you're talking the global village, like Marshall McLuhan once said, to where, you've got Germany, you've got China, you've got all of these different countries bringing in music gear and also involved in the NAMM organization as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, our industry, I happen to be up on the statistics now because I'm getting ready to testify on this to USTR in a couple next week. But our industry is, the US represents 44% of global music products industry. And when you have one market that big, you obviously need an interconnected global supply chain to serve that market. In addition, you look at like one of the US's greatest cultural export. I mean, it's rock and roll. And you think about like, if you travel the world, you hear like music globally, there's so much influence from American music around the world. And of course, American music was created with global influence. So it just kind of keeps going around in this circle. But, I don't see any other way for our industry to be anything but global. We are so interconnected, not only in the way people, listen to music around the world, the products people use around the world because of the musical styles, but also just the craftsmanship and how instruments have been made for centuries. I mean, one of the arguments that we're making about, the need for a global supply chain for our industry is the fact that there are places in the world that have been making instruments for far longer than the US has been around. I mean, the United States has celebrated 250 years this year.
Mhm.
NAMM is celebrating 125 years. But, the violins have been made for 400 years. I mean, Zildjian's a 400-year-old company. Talk about cymbal making. You go back to like the history of like drums and even, there you have generations of people around the world who have made products and their components. I think it's the beautiful thing about music that it really, unites us and we work together globally. So one of NAMM's biggest focuses is being, a global music products association. We have members in 92 countries. We have 122 countries visiting the NAMM show. It's it's a global organization, and we're demonstrating that through other events. You mentioned, we're putting on an event in Amsterdam in, gosh, 8 weeks,
Wow.
NAMM Next Europe, and then we're doing NAMM Next Latin America. So we did this in Nashville a couple years ago. We went online last year due to the tariff, pause and everything going on then. But we've been focusing on gathering leaders in global markets. First of all, to be a force of strength and unity in those particular areas, but also be able to go out and reach NAM members and non-NAM members across Europe who might not be coming to the NAM show, but realize what NAM can do for them and their business. Because the more people we have engaged, the stronger we are. And same in Latin America. We'll also, we'll expand in the years ahead to other regions around the world, and of course, put these events out in the US. But these kind of touch points really, really matter year round.
Well, and what always amazes me, and once again, thanks to your entire staff with NAMM as the association, but it's like some of the people that I'm friends with from different countries, such as, Germany and China and all around the world, from London, England. I only see them once a year at the NAMM show, because that's where we all converge and we're all there for the same reason, John. We're there because we have a love of music, we have a love of music gear, and to me, the fun part has always been the acts of discovery. That's why I always enjoyed the little startup companies, to where, in fact, Vinny Smith from VPix, that's where I first met he and his wife, and they had mortgaged their house to have a booth, and they had one pick at that time. And now, they're a much larger company, but there's so many stories like that within NAMM to where, and I always meet interesting people. When I got to speak with Tom with TKL and Larry with Fishman this last year, it's always, it broadens you. But I think people forget about, like you were bringing up, the legislation and the education. And I feel like I never have enough time to attend like the sessions I want to do also, because I'm meeting with all of the vendors and I always want them to tell me, it's like, okay, why is this new guitar, pedal, amp, software, microphone, why is it the latest and greatest today? Explain it to me, show it to me. And then I don't get the time to attend the many sessions that NAMM offers also.
Yeah, and you're such a NAMM pro. I love I don't even need to be on the show. You could just actually play. You could play me and the host because you say it so perfectly. Just get a little John face and just be like, but you're right. You just gave a really good example, Eric, of the power of the NAMM show because yeah, like you can sit down and have a conversation with Larry Fishman, who of course in 1985 he's winding coils in a basement in Cambridge, and now he's pickups almost every guitar, and he has that established story in longevity industry, but he's right there accessible, always innovating the next thing. And so that's a really good example who you mentioned, like who you can see at the NAMM show at the same time. Someone like a VPIC that's starting from the beginning. We still have about 300 new companies exhibit at the NAMM show every year. We still are that startup, that entrepreneurial dream of companies trying to get into the music products industry as well as have, go see a session with Paul Reed Smith talking about what he's learned for 40 years. We think about that a lot about like legacy established companies, large brands, small brands, startup brands. And, we're expected to be all things for all people. And that's possible when you segment and differentiate and think about who your customer is. We can be all things for all people when we don't think of all customers as the same. We what an established brand like a Fishman and a Gibson and a Fender and a PRS and a Yamaha, what they need might be different than a startup, someone in a startup pavilion, or someone that's got a little traction but needs some more global distribution or more US retailers. And we have everything in between. And so we work hard at understanding our companies really intimately so we can make sure the NAMM show gets them what they want. And I love that you're just as you were going on about all the things NAMM does, I'm sitting here like, man, you're hitting all these examples so perfectly.
But but working with your team, and like you and I had talked, you and I met years ago back when you were doing a lot of great work for Hal Leonard. And I've been attending the show since 2003. And I always look forward to it, to where I want to learn, I want to grow. Just like we were talking about the media day, which you under your leadership has continued to expand, John. And it's so much fun for me because as a media person, it's like going, okay, I want to learn as much as I can today. And certainly the main stage that you do with that, which you lead, it just keeps expanding. And the show, once again, coming out of the pandemic, to me has been in an expansion mode to where in the Anaheim Convention Center, I really have to, I've got to think about my schedule. I build out an itinerary and it's like going, and I know I'm going to walk 9 to 10 miles a day, but it's like, okay, do I have to go over to the other building where the audio is? It's like, because you guys are utilizing so much space within the Anaheim Convention Center and just trying to navigate everything. It's like, and you'll see somebody, you want to stop and say, hey, but it's like going, I got to get to a meeting. And I'm sure you get stopped all the time because people, and certainly are looking for your knowledge and what you bring to the table.
One of the fun thing about the NAMM show for me is to make myself accessible. I intentionally did that more this year and spent time just being on the floor, bumping into folks, making sure I'm visible in all the halls. I think that's really important. I mean, it's also, NAMM, the association, needs to use the NAMM show the same way that every company uses the NAMM show to kickstart our year, to understand the needs of the industry, to build relationships. And so we as a team, like we have meetings like every leader at NAMM, we know who you're meeting with, it's just like we use NAMM like every business uses the NAMM show because it helps us be successful when our job is to help the music industry grow and succeed. The NAMM show is the best place for us to see what those needs are and capture those. And so we think about that a lot. And just being out there and being visible is part of it. And so you talked about like more year-round things. One thing that's really exciting now is we we've had a real mission to expand the number of people we reach year round. So we have a new member dashboard. It's been soft launched since the NAMM show, but we're about to really run a campaign to amplify it in a huge way. So one of the traditional things is that if you don't go to the NAMM show, or if you're not the authorized contact or voting member of the organization from a membership standpoint, you really didn't get a lot of information. So what we've done is we've created basically a member dashboard that allows every employee of every company who's a member of NAMM to get access to all NAMM communications and all NAMM member benefits. And so you can go on NAMM.org and sign up and say, hey, I'm so and so, I work for Gibson. And, obviously an admin at Gibson's going to have to approve. So not everyone can just say, I work for Gibson. But as just an example, we've created this employee admin relationship because we believe that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of employees at these companies that want to just, first of all, access NAMM as a content provider. We have 12 email newsletters a month that go out. We have a content department that writes blogs. I mean, one thing, we're a storyteller for the industry. So just that content subscription alone is super valuable. But also,
I love the newsletters. I always get the newsletters. I always read them. And another facet, I think, John, that some people may not realize is what a great job your video team does also. Yeah, no, with some of the historic, stories with some of these people. And unfortunately, we've lost some of them over the years that started some of these companies. But I mean, there's a whole wealth of knowledge just with the video content.
huge. No, you're absolutely right. All that video, and also speaking of video, we've also taken the NAMM show is also a content generation platform for us. Again, how do companies use the NAMM show? Content generation. That's what you're doing. Busy, busy, busy for all days. So we actually now have all of the top NAMM U and Tech Track and other key sessions at the NAMM show panels. We have them available on NAMM.org as a member benefit. So one of the things is NAMM members can access videos of all recorded content from this NAMM show and past NAMM shows. Also, all of our regular ongoing webinars that we do all year round. All of that's available, and all you have to do is work for a member company or be an individual member. So we've tried to make the NAMM show a content generation platform for us, but give value to companies year round. So if you're at a company and you don't get, selected to travel to Anaheim and go to the NAMM show, you can still access a lot of what happened. And so we've been doing more with technology, the new app, to make sure that people around the world can still get part of that vibe and still get benefit. Brands at the NAMM show can get exposure beyond, just who's at Anaheim, which is already a lot of people. So I'm glad you're seeing all of this because the idea is that we're supposed to be the, trumpet joke coming, bear with me, mouthpiece for our industry to proclaim, to trumpet the great works of our industry.
I love these dad jokes. You can keep these rolling all day long with me, Chad.
The brass puns go, great Ray Folger.
I was going to bring up though with NAMM next, to where I attended the one that you had here in Nashville, and I found it eye opening. To hear the leaders of the industry up on stage talking about issues, and I'm just sitting out there absorbing it all. It's great time, to learn and gather information, and certainly like you talked as well, John, that where your business model, as a producer of music equipment or software or lighting, just all the facets, being able to use the NAMM tools to do that better. I know with myself, even, you and I, knowing each other for years, to where, doing a TV show and then launching this podcast, certainly a learning curve because I'm doing this out of my guitar room in Nashville instead of in a studio like I do the Rock and Review. And so, but now when I come to the NAMM show again, I'm going to be looking at those products, and certainly with the media area that's set up as well, which is incredible. With JBL, to where it's like, I plan to better utilize that space because there are assets at NAMM and with the NAMM content with the association. I don't think everybody knows about all of them, John.
Yeah, and it takes a while. Look, we have board members that spend 3 years on the NAMM board that finish and be like, "Wow, I think I know half of what NAMM does now." And it's really important, and it's important work. You think about what NAMM does, again, as an association, a lot of times association work is not the awesome, fun, rock star, front of stage part of it. But it's definitely everyone who set up the stage and made sure it's safe. And like, if they do their job, you don't know it. If they don't do their job, the stage collapses. So you think about the unsung heroes of the back line and the setup. I mean, that's what policy and work really is as an association. We have to build and make sure the stage is there for the music products industry to succeed. And that means federal funding for education. That means exclusions against harmful tariffs that are burdening our industry. That means understanding compliance issues in Europe that could affect ability for retailers to sell musical products based on packaging, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We work on all of this, and if we do it right, maybe the industry just keeps growing and no one knows, but it's important to engage and inform as much as possible.
Well, and I think also it speaks to your background and your degrees to where and you and I are both big believers in music education. And I've always said to people that have approached me, it's like everyone should play some kind of instrument.
Mhm.
I don't care if you play it well or not, but playing instruments betters me as a person. I think it betters all of us and rounds us out.
Boy, it
Er,
humbled us, that's for sure.
daily, especially with some of the other people I interview. It's like, oh wow, I really should learn my instrument better. But with these kids though, I think it's such an amazing time to give them another focus, John. Other than being on their phones and things like that and tablets, whatever, to where I think you and I, are testaments to that. You grow as you practice and learn an instrument and also get to join other like-minded people in playing music.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. So one of our many initiatives right now is careers.nam.org. And we have a career site dedicated right now to a Consider a Career in Music campaign. We've been going to school counselors nationally at the state level, engaging dozens of other organizations to go out and do this work. Our members, where we're going out and talking to high school and college students about why music is a career path. So your traditional arguments, music makes you a better human. Yes, music teaches you skills about performance, about collaboration, like humility. There are areas, teach you how to practice, teach you how to learn. So we're making musicians, we're making well-rounded humans, but also music is a career field. I think one thing we learn as adults, I certainly just feel blessed by this every day. As adults, we all have a job, and we if you add up the awake hours, the actual amount of hours a day that you're awake functioning, you spend more time at your job than you do with your family. Then you take sleep time out. You're at your job, your coworkers, what you do in life. And there's something magical about getting to the end of a work week or the end of the day and saying, yes, I was accountant, I'm a software developer, I'm a repair technician, I'm a manufacturer, and any job, I'm a leader, I'm a marketer, I'm a salesperson, just roll after roll after roll, countless roll. But I did it for an industry that makes the world a more beautiful place through music. And so just telling people that like band, orchestra, or choir, or music tech class or a college music major, you're learning about being in an industry. And you could do anything, any job that exists is needed in music. And our industry is full of jobs, it's full of passionate people. You come to the NAMM show, which is the gathering of our industry, and you feel the love and passion of an industry. Like just working in that is really magical. And so we want to get to a place where people understand I want to work in the music products industry. I want to devote whatever skill I want in life to an industry that creates more music makers worldwide. And that's just a really cool thing. So careers.nam, we're launching a free internship promotion site coming in the fall. We're launching the industry's first comprehensive job board later in the fall. So we're building all of this out now because NAMM needs to be the center of careers and get more people in our industry. So growing the workforce in our industry is to us is equally as important as growing the number of music makers for our industry to serve. So we actually just adopted a new vision, mission, objectives at our recent board meeting. This is hot off the press, Eric. You're like, "Wow," to have this press release just went out, I think Friday. So not even 24 business hours old. Um, but we adopted a new set of objectives founded around a framework called Gather, Serve, Grow. So our objectives are essentially gather the industry, serve our members, and grow the industry. And if you think about it, it helps us align on yes, the NAM show is a gathering place. Someone's got to say, hey, industry, you need to come together. And that's why, the industry in Europe is not coming together until NAM said, hey, NAM Next Europe, let's come together. So NAM is the gatherer, the one that says, hey, we have state level advocacy and we have 50 states trying to figure out how to do state level advocacy. Support Music Coalition. Let's gather everyone and let's focus on a need. but also we have to have a service mindset. And so we think a lot about like how do we serve our members? What do member companies need right now to make them successful? Because we are, they say about nonprofit, for-profit work. The real difference is about servant mindset. It's not about, what you do with the money at the end of the year if you pay taxes or not. That's not nonprofit or for-profit. It's about service mindset. We have to prioritize what we do based on the needs of what NAM member companies need. And that's the service mindset that helps us. But at the end of the day, if we're growing the industry, if we're making more music makers worldwide, everyone's happier. So you think about NAM Foundation grants, scholarships, the workforce development pieces we're doing, and so this kind of gather, serve, grow framework helps us really align on what we do and why we do it, and helps us focus on what I like to call what only NAM can do. Because there's a lot of things that people want NAM to do, and there's a lot of things NAM could do, but like any business or organization, you could take on 50 initiatives at one time and move all 50 1 inch down the field over a year and not accomplish anything, which is a common pitfall of a lot of organizations. We want to do everything because we're musicians and we're ambitious and we want to do it. But if we focus on what only NAM can do for an industry, like NAM's the only one that can say we're all going to gather in one place annually. NAM's the one that can speak on behalf of an entire global industry to the USTR about the impact of tariffs in our industry. So we have to stay focused on what only we can do. And it's been really, I think that's where you mentioned like energy and passion. It's this NAM team has been doing all of this stuff for decades. It's about focusing in the areas that have the most impact. Like, what are the 3 things we can do that are most impactful to, like, put points on the board for our industry every single year? And that's gather, serve, grow for us right now. And so that's been a really good it's taken us 2 years to get there and really figure out what is NAM's purpose in a post-pandemic world. And I think we're there.
I think that's amazing, and I think that having those 3 pillars are also a great idea because, like you and I know with business, you can't, if you focus on too many, you don't accomplish any.
Mhm.
So you've got to be able to narrow it down to three areas or 3 buckets that you go after, and it made me think of it too, John. Certainly over the years, writing for the different magazines and everything, I usually try and find some of the more up and coming companies because they need the most help. A lot of the big companies, the Gibsons, the Taylors, the Fenders, all of these, yeah, they're going to do well. They exist, Marshall, all of those. But the up and comers, to me, it's always once again discovery, being able to find them and help those businesses and talk with that inventor, that creator that made this product and brought their prototype. They bring their prototypes to the NAM show and it's like going, yeah, it's like I said, so when are you gonna well, once we get the orders, and it's like that is NAM to me.
Yeah, it's gotta be, and that's again, that's an opportunity to grow a business, that's an opportunity to gather and get the right people in the room, and so, no, we're really excited about a lot of the work. I mean, some of the key work right now, I mean, we'll be in Washington, DC, May 10th through 14th. I'll be there May 8th testifying on the, tariff, and then I'll be back on the next Monday through Thursday. We're sending a delegation of over 100 NAM members, um, over, 16 partner organizations. We have, 32 first-time delegates, about a third are first-time advocates, 2/3 are returning. We have NAM members that have done this for, all 20 years we've been advocating. This year is the 250th anniversary of the United States, the 125th anniversary of NAM. It's the 20th anniversary of the NAM fly-in. And so
That's
this year
incredible.
we're excited to not only advocate for continued funding of music education, we have about 50 of our 100 delegates doing strategic meetings on tariff impact, where we have particular districts or members of Congress that are on special committees that have influence over these type of things. So we're being very surgical on that as well, but also just really amplifying the efforts. You'll see more posting, more media around this. We have Miss America 2026, Cassie Donegan joining us. So the Miss America organization has chosen NAM as their week to promote that cause as well. So we have a very American forward calls for lobbying in the US Congress, which really helps. We have Queen Cora as another celebrity, of course, drummer of Prince, Beyonce, etc. So
Mhm.
fantastic celebrity artist. We're also the premier sponsor of a new event in DC called the Congressional Record. So the end of our fly-in is going to be a NAMM sponsored event that brings together members of Congress to play music on stage. The one thing that unites a member of Congress is performing, and actually, there's some members of Congress that really have some musical skills. So, bipartisan bands getting up there, playing together. So you get 100 delegates, 16 partners, artists, Miss America, everything, lobbying all day for the power of music education and the power of our industry, and culminate the day with bipartisan performances in the Capitol building about coming together and the unity that music brings.
I
This is an unbelievable year for us. I mean, this is gonna be one of the best NAMM fly-ins we've ever had, and I think it sets a new bar for what advocacy means for this industry.
Well, and it's so amazing, and once again, with everything that you and the NAM Association are doing with the tariffs, meeting with the government, going to Capitol Hill. And also, you and I both know, I know, in the coming weeks, I'm attending some sessions here in Nashville concerning AI and music. And so, a lot of people are, you hear people that are worried, you hear people that are not worried, but it's, and not to put you on the spot, but, what do you think on this with the conversation with AI technology and music now?
Oh, that's absolutely. That's a big topic as well. Look, NAMM for 125 years has existed to help gather and lead our industry through times of change. And I think that's where these pushes come. That's is where the end of what's best for the industry. And technology has disrupted our industry for a very long time. And it's also propelled our industry. And so you think about like some of the times in history where something like the radio or the television was a huge disruptor. Um, Even, the idea of like plugins and drag and drop plugins on dolls where, people making, rack mounted physical hardware were like, well, that's the end for me because now you can just drag and drop any sound, and there's been this evolution, but what's happening now is just things are just moving faster and faster and faster. It's like the past century, if you look at like a millennium, there's like this flywheel, and like the past 100 years have just been getting and going and just goes faster and faster with technology. So, not to diminish the impacts of AI because it's very real and it's definitely going to change the face of our industry and many industries, but it's also another instance of technology innovation impacting our industry. So you look at what AI is doing. Yes, we want creator rights. We want to make sure that ethically trained, morally used technology. We want to make sure that we're driving forward the ability to understand that yes, there are things that technology can automate and do faster and now, but the need for humans to create, that's what's core. And so when you think about like the creative power of our industry, not only the creators, the artists with the instruments in their hands, but the incredible creativity of the product managers and the engineers making these products, thinking about how these artists are create. We're an incredibly creative, passionate industry. And AI is a tool that allows us to move faster. And yes, there are areas where AI is going to propel us more forward. But at the same time, I will tell you, looking at the past 112 years of history, avoiding change has never worked.
No.
Embracing and working together to make sure that we as creative humans can be more powerful creative humans using a new piece of technology and a new tool in our tool belt is where we've always been successful as an industry, and so that's where NAMM really leads. Let's have more topics on AI at the NAMM show. Let's look at these products. Let's have real conversations of what they're doing. But let's also make sure we see the evolution of, the experimental phase. So you think back in the 80s, you know, I'll use an example, like the Lynn drum machine, the first of the early 80s. We still talk about it. That thing was the first drum machine that used real samples that came
Mhm.
out, used live drum samples. What is the 1 year later, people are trying to take those samples and actually edit them and try to, remeasure them to something else. So it was one of those things. There was an experimental phase of drum machines and MIDI and samples. The 80s were that. it was an experimental phase of technology, and
Oh,
some
yeah.
music took it too far, some great music came out of it, some maybe not so great music came out of it, some products came out of it that lasted a year and a half, but there's an experimental phase of new technology, and I definitely think we're in the AI sense of that. And if you take a longer look, don't get too stressed out about, "Wait, I saw this new AI thing, that's gonna take over." Well, if you look back to how this has gone before, there are experiments that fail and there are experiments that lead to happy accidents that actually lead to something else, which might be more successful. So you have to give it time, but you also have to know that keeping the creator and the human that's driving innovation and the human that's listening to music on the other side, keep them at the forefront. Technology will never replace those humans. The day there's AI bots creating music for AI bots and listening to AI bots and humans are out of the picture, then we can worry. But as
Right.
long as humans are going to concerts, playing music, experiencing music, we have a place for human centric music making. And we have to make sure that's how we're using all of these tools.
Well, and I think your example was so great, John, talking about the '80s, and certainly I remember going through those early drum machines and the early, chord polysynths and all that kind of stuff. And now, once again, I'm sure you'll find it funny. I had Thomas Dolby in studio, and I was like, well, what are you taking out on the road for keyboards now? He's like going, yeah, it's pretty much all plugins now in his laptop, and he still, will use like a Juno and stuff like that. But it's like he's still using technology and he's still creating music, and it's still like you said, John, it's the creation. It's like I don't want AI or computer or anything to take away the creation of music and what I enjoy of creating and playing a songwriter around and stuff like that. We all have to have those outlets still.
And it will try. Look,
Mhm.
there are always look, people, humans are gonna try everything. They're gonna try. They're gonna try to replace with AI. Look, in 1901, 52 piano dealers gathered in Baltimore to form an organization, or actually in New York. They gathered in New York to form an organization because the player piano was threatening the piano business. And player pianos, get this, imports from China were hurting American business. That was in 1901, and we gathered to try to solve that problem. And so piano rolls, player pianos, the radio, all NAMM's, it's been going on for 125 years, and that's the founding of NAMM. And so we always gather, but I think what keeps us going, and then where I just feel such, like you talk about energy for NAMM, like I'm an energetic person to begin with, but also just the idea of like why I just wake up every morning like we have to do this work is we have an obligation to keep our industry working together. NAM has done for decades, for over a century. The leaders before me and the leaders before them have done a phenomenal job of making sure that as we're all competitors, we're still making the best overall decision for the industry as a whole, and that's what's kept us going. And so being the one, what can only NAM do? Say, I know industry, but we as a whole will all be better if we all just kind of go this way. So it's those little nudges to innovation. It's those nudges to say, let's showcase what the next great thing is at the NAM show. Let's put on events like NAM Next Europe and gather leaders to talk about, hey, let's look at a 10-year economic outlook and really think about this thing. Like, I know there's problems today, but what's gonna happen 5 years from now? Like, that's the type of thing I think about all the time because of the history I've read of the organization.
Well, and I was going to bring up too, we mentioned briefly about the NIM app, for when people do come to the shows. And it's like, it's almost to the point, John, now to where I don't think I can navigate all of the areas without the app. It's like I really, and I need to get better with it to where I load all of my itinerary into that and then it populates it. But it's like all the breakout sessions. It's like, when you come out to get a coffee or a sandwich or something, and there's somebody interesting out front holding a session at the Anaheim convention, and it's like going, oh my gosh, and then you just stop. You stop and listen for a while, but there's so much of that going on around all of the buildings, around not only the spaces, within NAM, but other things that NAM is a part of. It seems like it's just like expanding exponentially again, which I myself am thrilled to see because we know during the pandemic, things got, instrument sales went up, but then, nobody could attend the NAMM show anymore.
Yeah. Well, so what if, speaking of AI, what if your app could you could go in and select the sessions you want to see, select the exhibitors you want to see, make your plan early, and then have the app create an AI based schedule for you that organizes the sessions and the vendors and puts together a route map with a real 3D map of the entire campus that builds out your route most efficient to catch the things you want and even recommends other things that you haven't even thought of yet in the most efficient walking route to get everything you want to get done.
That's amazing.
Because that's coming in 2027.
Oh my
People
gosh.
staying on the forefront of technology. Like we're using technology and AI at NAMM to make a better experience. So that's again, that's a new feature that we're going to be launching in the app in 2027 so that attendees can say, oh, I like this stuff. Oh, have you thought about that? Hey, I have 2 hours free. What should I be checking out in these 2 hours? Here's a recommended path. So we have some cool stuff that we're trying to make it really, really efficient for everyone.
The hardest thing I have when I'm at the show, and once again, one of the times I always look forward to every year, is that I hardly have time to grab food or find a bathroom. And those of you, or sometimes find ice cream. And it's like those are always the hardest things because it's like going, I don't want to miss out on something. And I'm there for so many days, John. And it's like I'm trying to pack everything in there, and it's hard. And plus, what I'd like to be able to do, and I would recommend this to vendors, is to where, a lot of times they will scan our badges, right? So they know, okay, Eric, you're here with Rock and Review or Worship Musician or whatever. I would like to be able to scan their QR code and load that into my app so I can remember the product I checked out.
Yeah. So one of the new app feature, we're really going out to brands in the app. There's these digital brand opportunities. So what we have is the opportunity for that vendor, when you click on their booth in the app, to give you direct links to their new release, direct contact forms. So we're really that's a new opportunity for vendors. So we're going out to all the exhibitors over the summer and saying, hey, load all this stuff in your app because people can click on you. And not only people at the show, we expose the map to anyone that wants to check it out. What's interesting, we had 60,000 people on the ground in Anaheim. We had 150,000 unique hits on the app, on the map for the schedule, and 800,000 sessions. So you look at the number of people coming back and back, we recognize that 2.5 times the people on site are actually engaging with these brands around the globe, not to mention the 60 plus million views of content generated at the NAMM show. So we're really focused on the power of if you're going to be there in person, face to face, that has to have value. But brands want maximum brand exposure. That's what it's about. They want the whole world at the end of the NAMM show. The whole world should want these products more than they did the week before, and that's what we deliver. Maximum brand demand, maximizing exposure. Right? We're all busy. What AI is doing is forcing us all to work a lot harder and a lot faster, and quite frankly, for the same dollar. And, anyone in business right now, it's how's it going? Working harder for the same dollar. Cool, same. We all are, but I think that's how do we do that more efficiently? How can NAMM help? And again, back to that service mindset, what do our people need? They need to be more efficient than NAMM show. That's where we focus our feature set. That's where we focus our energy on.
And for me, once again, with the media angle on NAMM, which, you and your team have always been so great, but it's like a lot of times from the vendors and the companies, I have a harder challenge getting the press releases or the images, or if I have to turn around a fast piece for a magazine and give them my top 5 that I saw at the show, I need images and I need access now. As soon as I'm back home from the show, in Nashville, it's like I got to get articles out. I got deadlines. And I think that's always a hard part because then, as you and I know, John, and they've been at, in Anaheim for 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, particularly if they've come from out of the country. And a lot of them go on vacation after the week after. So then when we need the content, it's not available.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are tired after their week at the NAMM show. I can attest to that. This year I went to Illinois and then Barcelona, right? I traveled for 2 weeks after the NAMM show, and it was, not recommended, but at least we're, this.
I always have to buy new tennis shoes before I go on, anytime it's like, that's when I'm buying new tennis shoes.
Oh, it's so funny. People like usually pre-NAMM show, I do a lot of these type of interviews, and people always ask, "Okay, what's your advice to a first-time NAMM attendee?" And of course, this year I'll plug the app and the AI and all this stuff around there. But the real thing this year, just wear a different pair of shoes every day. Get your shoe game on. Get yourself some of those big waterproof band-aids for the blisters. Like, that's the thing you don't think about, like the sheer amount of walking you're gonna do. I run. I seriously, and I'm a runner anyway, but I'm running like 10 to 12 miles every weekend. And right before the NAMM show, I'll just do a really long run and get in all my miles, long cardio. Just because I'm gonna be doing 10 to 12 miles a day on my feet. And so I actually physically prepare for the NAMM show as well as mentally and emotionally. It's just part of my January ritual.
I do the same thing, it's so funny because people always ask me, it's like, "What should I bring to the NAMM show?" Because like, my first time here or something like that, I'm going, "Okay, you gotta bring a thing of hand sanitizer,
Mhm.
bring mints, and
Yeah.
bring a refillable water bottle." Besides the 2 pairs of shoes, and also possibly a raincoat or something like that, and also bring a backpack, and make sure you keep it empty before you go on the floor. Only carry what you need. And, like, now I'm carrying, like, one of the stands, one of the baton, camera stands, and if I come in and I'm doing the podcast there, I'm probably gonna be carrying a lot more. But you really have to be mindful. I mean, it's like you're going on a music gear expedition, John.
Well, that's what we want. We wanna create the most brand demand, the most excitement for musical products, and NAMM Week, really does that in a powerful way. And also, just for your listeners, like, you go to NAMM.org, sign up for all the newsletters. If you work for a NAMM member company, sign up at NAMM.org, create an account. It'll ask you what company you work for. Just type it in. You can find it in our database. Get linked up to your company because you can get access to everything NAMM offers as an employee of a member company. We really want to reach more people in this industry. And there's a ton of things, and there's way more that have even gotten. There's mentorship programs. If you're a young professional under 40, there's an entire young professional. There's women of NAMM you can get involved with. Like I said, the careers, the job board, the NAMU sessions, we've got data, the insights, the global report, market analysis, all kinds of things. So it goes on, but like we want NAM to be a resource. Like my dream is like people get hired in this industry and you get your sort of HR list. Here's your email login, here's your password, here's your blah, 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 and here's your NAM account. You're part of our industry now. So here's where you get access to industry information and news. Like, we should just be part of that fabric of our industry.
I was gonna grab back, John. I can't reach it, but I actually have my last NAMM show badge hanging off a guitar stand back here, and it's like going, I don't know how many NAMM show badges I have from over the years, but it's like, it's always fun for me, besides the people, besides the knowledge, besides the music gear, but being around like-minded people who
Mhm.
are who are creators, who are musicians, and who really are passionate about this and wanna grow. Because, I mean, you don't wanna be stuck, so that's with the technology and with everything else and even the new products, it's like going, "How is that going to help a young person play? How is that gonna help somebody in a praise team or, with all these different facets of the music gear, what will it do different and better?" And I think that's the excitement to where when people, will reach out to me and go, "Well, what's the coolest thing you saw at NAMM?" I'm like going, I can't narrow it down to one. One is hard.
That's another thing too, we definitely do a lot to have people see the products, access the map, access the sessions, engage with brands digitally, create content, brand demand. There's so much about that. I'm not discrediting any of that work. But in addition, just NAMM's an experience. People leave NAMM and they say it all the time. I know I did as a professional many years before I even dreamed of being in this role. The NAMM show for me, my wife still jokes, she's like, "Remember NAMM show? You'd get so excited and and like it was like I'm like, it was the most energizing piece of professional development, energy. Like they always say NAMM's like not available, maybe May is the old product joke of what NAMM stands for. Honestly, it was like I had energy to May. Like I'd go to the NAMM show and I was fired up all the way through the rest of the year. Like I knew my direction, I knew my company, I had the right, like I'd seen the energy of the industry, I'd talked to other people, I know where they're heading. It just drives the industry to a place, and just by the time that energy starts to wean off, you can look forward to the next NAMM show, and you can really start growing from there. So
And that's for me, John, speaking of,
one, yeah, as the sun shifts on me here.
but, also for me, people always say, why do you keep attending the NAMM show? And certainly, as it's like I pay for it out of my own pocket and with the media stuff, but once a year, I get to see these people and I get to meet new people and remind them, I'm your Nashville guy.
Mhm.
I'm the one covering, your guitars, your amps, your pedals, your cables, your microphones, all of these incredible products. This is the only chance you get to see them in person and not just on a telephone call, not just on an email or a Teams meeting or something. It's in person. And I think, John, what NAM has done well and continues to do well and even better, I think, in the past few years is it's about the relationships.
Yeah.
And it's maintaining those relationships with other companies, with media people, I mean, just opportunities. The opportunities are there. People just have to, tap into them to learn what they are.
I agree, my friend. I mean, there's I think I forget who started. I know Joe said this, Joe Lamont, the president, and I think Link before him said the same thing, and maybe Link got it from Bill Guard before him. Who knows? But we're an association. We help people associate. Like we are a relationship organization. Like do not forget at our heart, it's about helping our industry associate. Like that's our product. We're a service organization. So, it means a lot. We think about it. It's a lot of you put a lot of great people in the same room, magic happens, but we work really hard at being very intentional and deliberate about a lot of things that happen, and we think about it.
Well, speaking of which, I got to bring up real quick. My sponsor for the show, John, is the Acoustic Coffee Company. And so anybody listening or watching the show, if you put in Gear Gab into the website and you get your first order of coffee, you get 20% off, John. So there you go. That's my sponsor for the show now.
Maybe I'll fill my Yeti with some acoustic coffees. I'm a coffee person for
Yeah,
sure.
so have I. But I wanted to bring up again though before we wrap things up, John, with the legislation, with the NAM next, with what you're doing in Europe with the NAM Association. Um, for people who have not, really got involved with NAM yet, what do you recommend? The website. I mean, how should they get involved and be able to learn more about what the NAM Association does, what the NAM show is that so many of us are a part of? How can they increase their knowledge and see if their company wants to be a part of it or if they want to be a member? What do you recommend?
Yeah, I that's a really good question. I think the first thing is make sure you're getting all of our content. First of all is educating. You're going to learn about how should I get involved? What should I do? Educate yourself. If you work for a member company, you can sign up. You can sign up for our newsletters, our information. If you're not a member company, you can inquire about joining them because again, the cost of membership is dollars a month when you think about the value of what you're getting, all year round. So I think it's really important do we have an individual membership as well? So if you're a professional working in the industry, maybe a contractor, front of house engineer, music educator, you can actually join NAM as an individual now and get access. So I think first of all, like being part and just having that access, once you start seeing all of the areas that NAM's doing, you go to NAM.org, click on member services, everything's there, you can get information. But once you start getting a sense of it, if you're in Europe and you want to attend NAM Next Europe, it's actually free for members. It's a member benefit. NAM Next Latin America. Those are member events. You get badges as a member. NAM members get badges to the NAM show. They don't pay for the NAM show. It's a member benefit. So I think really just make sure you're following along. The website has everything, but sign up because we're really posting all the time. Sign up for all of our social media channels. They're all on the website. You can search NAM. There's NAM Show and NAM Association on Instagram. We have NAM, same thing on Facebook. We're on Crawl X, TikTok, LinkedIn. Just I think really make sure you're following us because we put out a lot of information. I think it's really important. I think also, getting involved. If you want to get involved more, there's plenty of ways to do that. The dashboard gives a lot of that. But also rest assured, what we want to make sure that our industry knows, every company in this industry, every individual member, you're working every day to make your business successful and your life successful. And we want you to do that. Our job at NAMM is for you to be rest assured that we're taking care of the policies and the issues that allow you to worry about your business and focus on your business while we're out in DC lobbying against the impact of tariffs and making sure there's federal funding for music education and making sure states are coordinated on local education efforts so music education funding flows to make sure the workforce is being developed so we have a pipeline of new solid workers, make sure we're granting music makers to create music in the world. Like we're doing all of that. And just knowing that that's being taken care of, we really hope makes you proud of what NAMM's doing and be proud to be a member and help support that work.
There's so much great stuff going on with the NAMM Association and with the NAMM show, and certainly I'm excited to see the new app with AI so it can help me even more maximize my time, John, because it's like, you know how it is. It's like I'm like going, okay, if I get my, if I get my coffee in the lobby and then I'll walk right down because you always have to get the right hotel so you don't have too much distance from you and the show. But I'm gonna have to have you back on when we get closer to the show coming in 2027 in January in Anaheim. I think you're gonna have to come back on again and then also fill us in on all of the legislation. And I'm sure you're gonna have more amazing things to talk about also, John. You are one of the busiest men in the business, and I'm so glad we got to have time with you on the show.
Oh, thank you, Eric. Yes, I'd love to come on pre-NAMM show 27, talk about all the new and exciting. We'll do that in the fall. We'll definitely have a major recap in the next couple weeks from NAMM. I think I'm going to host, I'm telling you before I talk to our team, I think I'm going to host a special webinar with me to update the industry about what we learned from being in the room with USTR hearing committee and what we learned from members of Congress. I think it's worth like a webinar with me that we can go out and just update the industry and take some questions. So look out for that in the coming weeks after we get back from DC. But yeah, a lot happening. Stay involved. If please be involved. Our NAMM team's here to support you in any way. And it was so great to talk to you today about all the fun stuff we get to do. I'm busy, but I'm having fun. So that's good.
Well, we appreciate you also, the CEO and president of the NAMM show, John Mlynczak. Thank you so much, John, again for coming on the show. And we'll do it again, I promise.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining the Gear Gap Podcast with Eric Dahl. Subscribe to our weekly conversations on your favorite platform. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to leave us a review. Follow us on social media at Gear Gap Podcast. You'll never know who our next guest will be.